In this video, I will tell you about your past, present, and future. You will understand why you struggle to build normal relationships with women and what you should do about it. Those who watch my videos will realize that these words are not just empty talk. Therefore, they also realize that in a short time, they will receive very valuable information. In general, less than 1% of newcomers in a gym can lift 100 kilograms on their first try. However, that doesn't mean you'll never be able to lift that weight. It means that gradually, reasonably, adequately, and step by step, you should work your way up to it. It's exactly the same here. In reality, less than 1% of those who listen to my videos truly understand and share the insights I talk about. And here, I'm talking about the very foundation, the core essence. And I'm not saying this out of thin air. When I look at comments, or when people message me privately, including those who have watched every video on the channel, many of them still don't fully grasp it. I can tell that from just 2 sentences, how well someone has understood and absorbed all of this. The question arises, why? In reality, the answer is simple, because videos watched on YouTube don't practically help you grow. I'll tell you more. For most of you, they create the illusion that you already know everything. Let's say you've watched 800 videos on proper exercise technique. Theoretically, you're ready. You're fully confident that you'll do it correctly. However, when you get to the gym and try it out, you realize that in practice, you still can't execute everything correctly. Why? Because you lack practical experience. The exact same principle applies here. Modern times have radically changed the rules of the game, rules for approaching and building relationships with women. In the past, a woman was first under her father's authority, then she would move under her husband's authority. In other words, she would move from one household to another, and nothing fundamentally changed for her. As a result, no unnecessary questions would arise in her mind. However, in modern reality, people have almost complete freedom of choice. This has radically changed the rules of the game. Even a young girl, 16 to 18 years old, now receives so much attention from men that you couldn't even imagine it, especially if she has a naturally presentable appearance, and even more so if she actively provokes men with her provocative behavior or actions. From that age, she is already desirable to everyone, both to men her age and those much older. It doesn't work the same way for men. You have to develop yourself, gain authority. You have to perform acrobatics to earn a woman's attention. So, if we compare an 18-year-old girl with an 18-year-old boy, the girl already has full confidence that she is desirable to the opposite sex. The boy, on the other hand, feels inwardly constrained. On top of all this, if we add the objectively heightened sexual needs of a teenage boy, and further add all the sexual triggers that exist in modern reality, provocative and enticing women, advertisements, certain type of websites, and so on, by that age, the boy's foundation becomes distorted both in his limbic system and in his worldview. Everywhere you look, the vast majority of women, at varying degrees, highlight their sexuality. On the internet, on billboards, on the streets, everywhere you encounter women who sexually provoke you. As a result, you get a man who has incorrect perceptions of himself, who feels inwardly oppressed. Meanwhile, for objective reasons, he becomes fixated on women. This is the main reason why most men fail with women. They don't have much choice. Either they don't start a relationship at all, or they start one by chance with a woman who shows interest in them. And largely, they begin by conceding their positions. They are willing to make any concession just so that she doesn't reject them, because they simply crave a woman and aren't really ready for a genuine relationship. Able to diminish her significance in your mind in the long term. This is exactly why you must deeply understand and internalize this issue. Otherwise, you are simply heading toward disaster. According to last year's studies, the number of single men has reached a historic high. This raises the question, why? What is the reason behind this? As mentioned before, a man's primary issue is the lack of feeling needed, which lowers his sense of self-worth. Let's imagine 100% of women. There is an active segment that represents about 80%. This group consists of women who are frequently meeting new men and often going on dates. Most women won't admit this, but meeting people on social media has essentially become a hobby for them. As a result, they've seen almost everything. They've met bodybuilders, actors, singers, IT professionals, directors, financially successful men, and unsuccessful ones too. They've also had the chance to ride in various models of cars. In other words, they've practically experienced everything. So when you message such a woman, she thinks, "Who is this pathetic guy? What does he want now?" She looks down on you and positions herself accordingly. The core problem lies in the fact that you, already raised in an unequal environment, end up believing these toxic, poisonous, and unfair pieces of feedback. Essentially, you trust the opinions of women with whom it is, quite frankly, impossible to build a normal relationship, women who are extremely problematic by nature. There is another group of women who simply remain unseen. They don't stand out. You rarely encounter them in entertainment venues. They're not very active on social media, and they don't behave provocatively or seek thrills. As a result, you end up trusting the overwhelming and toxic feedback you receive from problematic women on the front lines. This only reinforces your inaccurate perceptions of yourself and deepens your insecurities. This is what slowly destroys your personality. Either they don't respond to you at all, or if they do, they play the role of the unattainable girl, imposing conditions that force you to weaken your position. You start to feel that if you don't agree to their terms, they simply won't even consider starting a relationship with you. If you agree, you'll have to compromise your stance. But the moment you give up your position, you become less attractive to the woman, and she'll either leave you immediately or later once you're fully attached to her. This entire situation isn't something that can be resolved easily. Achieving mental change and getting onto the right track is a process. It requires time and effort. There's no magical pill that can suddenly transform you. But let me tell you where to start. In the first stage, you need positive feedback, positive reactions. To achieve this, at this stage, you should only interact with women who speak to you with respect and courtesy, and who also easily take the initiative themselves. Meanwhile, you should simply wait for the new video course I'll be releasing soon, where I'll go into detail about how to meet women from a position of strength and how to start a relationship with them on your terms, directly from a position of strength. Without these skills, you won't be able to have a proper relationship with a normal woman in today's world because you are mentally weak. That's precisely why many men end up seeking mistresses, because as you age, you gain access to certain women to some extent, and having been deprived for so long, you immediately fall for them. This only accelerates your personal degradation, and inevitably, it all ends in disaster. If you've already married a problematic woman and want to know how to maintain or strengthen your position within the relationship, I already have a 2.5-hour video course on this. You need to understand the concept of being the leader in the relationship. The thing is, if you walk into a gym, no one cares that you have 3 diplomas. They'll only pay attention to the size of your biceps. If you walk into a laboratory, no one cares about your bicep size. There, your intellect matters. The same applies to women. Different categories of women require different approaches. For a normal woman, what matters is the kind of person you are, your moral character. For all other women, to put it lightly, they don't care whether you're kind or cruel, honest or a pathological liar. What works with them is simply your ability to behave effectively and influence their emotions. This includes skills like properly intensifying situations, planting intrigue, invoking jealousy, predicting a woman's reactions, and essentially doing everything that triggers an emotional roller coaster in a woman's biochemistry. If you can adapt to an individual and act effectively, it's certainly possible to attract a problematic woman even from a weak position, and in fact, it's one of the easiest processes. However, it's risky in a long-term relationship. You constantly have to stay on edge, establish optimal rules within the relationship that benefit both parties, and then act as the relationship's leader and moral policeman to ensure those rules aren't broken. In all other cases, we know what happens: chaos and misery. The vast majority of men, of course, do not possess these skills. What does a truly strong position mean? The vast majority of people have neither experienced it nor have any idea what it looks like. So, before diving into our premium lectures, start with this. Don't let your self-esteem be defined by the low-level and poor-quality interactions that are only possible with problematic women. It's time to stop and reflect. Right now, you're in the role of a man trying to flex his biceps in a laboratory. As a result, everyone is looking at you and judging you as a fool. Most women approach both dating and getting to know someone with the mindset of, "All right, show me what you've got." In other words, it's less of a meeting and more of an interview, where the woman is in the role of the employer. Even though you're both smiling politely at each other, deep down, you have this constant feeling that you need to do something to meet her expectations, to impress her. Naturally, most men can't handle that pressure. From this point, there are two possible solutions. One is developing the right skills, which will give you an effective behavioral model to break out of this basic and damaging mindset. This mindset is harmful because the situation is structured in such a way that it feels like the relationship is something only you need. The second option, as I mentioned, is to initially choose women who approach the process of getting to know someone in a completely different way. For example, when a man says on the very first date or during early conversations, "I take this seriously," "I want to build a family," or "These are my achievements," he genuinely believes that most women care about these things. He truly thinks that a woman will choose him because he is a good and kind guy. Of course, that's not how it works. Your target audience is about 2 to 3% of women. For the rest, your banal messages will simply bore them or even make them feel repulsed. This brings us logically to the second reason why you're unable to start a healthy relationship, and why, at this stage, you're still mentally immature. You're simply searching for a woman who doesn't exist. Even many wealthy, famous, and attractive people fail to find their person. This is a fairly common phenomenon. You've probably heard it in podcasts or interviews, how they just can't seem to find the one. So you keep searching, and searching, but you never find her. It seems strange. How is it possible that you haven't found her? The reason is that you want a woman who is modest, humble, and at the same time has perfect front and rear bumpers that make you desire her even more. You want her to have a well-trained, sculpted body, to be a great homemaker, and at the same time, someone with whom you can record intellectual podcasts. In other words, you're looking for a mutant, a woman who, of course, doesn't exist. Or rather, she exists, but only in your imagination. And naturally, those fantasies won't go away until you get to know someone up close. The reality is that certain human traits are mutually exclusive. They can't coexist in one person. If a woman is very intelligent, she's likely also ambitious. As a result, she won't want to stay at home taking care of children, washing your socks, and endlessly looking after you and your family. She'll feel like she's wasting her potential on something unimportant. Consequently, marriage to such a woman often turns into mere cohabitation. If a woman is very beautiful, if she invests heavily in her looks, you shouldn't expect her to be easily tamed or willing to stay in one place. Simply put, before you start looking for a woman, you need to let go of these childish fantasies about women. Third reason. Scientists have uncovered one of the reasons why a large number of men are single. Both men and women tend to seek partners who are slightly more attractive and slightly more intelligent than themselves. It's like a man who can lift 90 kilos deciding to load 100 kilos onto the barbell and tearing himself in half trying to lift it. You tell him, "Why bother? You can see you can't lift it. It might fall on you, or you might injure yourself, or both." But he responds, No, I have to lift it. Once I do, I'll be happy." We all know there's no happiness in that scenario. Once you lift 100 kilos, you'll want to lift 200. Most people aim for a partner who, on some level, they feel they don't deserve. Where does that approach lead? Either you'll get rejected from the start, or in the relationship, you'll never be the priority. Which means eventually you'll get rejected anyway. That's the end of the story. But do you know what's even sadder? Despite all this, If a man were to come to me and say, "I want to find a woman who is better than me, kinder, more righteous, and a better person," I'd applaud him. But the criteria for choosing a partner are entirely different. They revolve around appearance, provocativeness, a sense of humor, intrigue, and similar shallow attributes. Fourth reason. Another widespread problem is the idea that all women care about is money. As a result, men with lower incomes feel embarrassed to meet women. This belief doesn't come out of nowhere. I recently came across a study where 65% of surveyed women said they would end contact with a man who didn't own his own home. Additionally, these women's expectations for a man's income were significantly higher than the average salary. This reveals that the majority of men simply don't meet these expectations. You feel ashamed of your income, develop insecurities, and consider yourself undesirable. On top of that, some women add fuel to the fire by openly saying, "I'm looking for a successful man who can provide for our family. Otherwise, why would I need a husband?" And yes, that sounds like a convincing argument, and I'm not here to argue against it. But let's think about it. Does this always hold true in practice? Let's consider whom women actually choose. On one side, you have a man with an effective behavior model and an appealing personality, but with an average income. On the other, you have a spoiled, pampered guy who flaunts daddy's money. Out of that 65%, the vast majority of women would choose the first guy. Therefore, you shouldn't rely on what those women say. A wise woman understands that a man having money today is no guarantee he'll have it forever. Life is unpredictable, and circumstances constantly change. What truly matters are a man's character and qualities, which give him the ability to eventually achieve success and realize his potential. End of story. If you decide to meet women online, it's crucial to consider what kind of profile they have and how they use that platform. How many dates have they been on, and how often do they go? On the internet, there are many women who act provocatively just to boost their sense of self-worth by seeking attention from men. That's how they feed their ego, and many of them have no interest in serious relationships. So you eagerly run to meet such a woman for a date, not realizing that she already knows how it's going to end. She's already decided in advance that she's just playing with you and will reject you. Later, no one calls you, no one texts you, and you start thinking, "I must be a loser, or ugly, or boring." All of this, of course, continues to decrease your potential effectiveness in the future. After several years of such negative experiences, you find yourself clinging to a seventh-rate, meaningless relationship and fighting for it. In such a situation, if you ask a man, "What kind of expectations do you have for a woman?" he can't give you an answer. He looks at you confused, with his mouth open, or responds with random, incoherent ideas. Another reason you might struggle to start a relationship is lack of experience. For example, you might be the funny and cool guy in a group setting, but as soon as you're one-on-one with a woman, you freeze, get stressed, and don't know how to act. You might be, say, a champion in some field or exceptionally talented, but if you haven't developed an effective behavioral strategy when interacting with women, your brain will hold you back, and you'll end up doing something foolish. In general, for those listening to this now, you need to understand something very clearly. Even if we take the world's greatest negotiator or the most successful ladies' man, most of you would perceive them as extraordinary individuals with innate talent. You'd think their abilities are something they were born with, but in reality, that's not the case. What sets them apart is that they rarely need to improvise. They've developed many preset templates in their minds through experience. As a result, all they do is figure out which template to use with a specific type of woman. If you see such a person doing something impressive, just ask them how they did it. Most likely, they'll tell you they've done it countless times before and didn't come up with anything new in that moment. So what seems extraordinary to you is simply the result of your lack of experience. Now imagine a fish swimming in a lake thinking, "Which bait should I bite on? Oh, this one smells like strawberries, and that worm looks juicy. I'll bite this one." This fish is like a man searching for a woman online. It's an unserious approach. If you're looking for a woman, you shouldn't be the fish, you need to be the fisherman. You need to know who you're looking for and why, and then choose the right bait accordingly. In general, finding a good woman who is suitable for building a family takes an average of 6 to 8 months, assuming you dedicate nearly all of that time to the task. And when a man makes all the mistakes I've outlined here, he damages himself. He's essentially trying to break a concrete wall with his forehead. He's tearing himself apart for a woman who doesn't actually bring any value to his life. In today's reality, every man has, at least once, experienced blatant devaluation from a woman. Imagine you're selling handmade products that you created yourself. A group of tourists, all women, comes by. One says, "This is awful." Another tells her friend, loud enough for you to hear, "I think this guy's hands are deformed. That's why his product is so bad." A third says, "If you pay me, maybe I'll take it." A fourth offers, "I'm willing to give you $1 for it." The problem is that in that moment, you don't even realize there's a specific audience out there that genuinely values what you're offering. Instead, you focus on the mass feedback, which is natural but incorrect. The women giving you this feedback are the same ones with whom a healthy relationship is, in principle, impossible. So stop trying to meet their expectations and start studying this topic carefully. Our online lectures will soon be available for purchase on our website. Stay tuned for more details and don't miss the chance to take your knowledge and skills to the next level. Thank you for watching. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated with more valuable insights and tips. Also, make sure to follow us on our social media accounts linked in the description for exclusive updates, discussions, and content. See you in the next video.